Okay. Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar hosted by the Inland Empire chapter of the American Advertising Federation. I'm John McCarthy, your chapter president, and I'm excited to introduce our featured speaker today, Erik Witzig. He's a senior sales enablement specialist at Yelp. Erik brings a wealth of practical knowledge to today's session as a Yelp Product Certified professional who specializes in working with multi-location brands. Experience, I think that's particularly valuable for a lot of agencies that are on the call and businesses operating across diverse markets in the Inland Empire. In today's digital landscape, local search and online reputation management have become a critical component for any comprehensive marketing strategy. And Yelp's platform serves as a vital touch point where potential customers discover, evaluate, and engage with businesses, making it essential for marketing professionals to understand how to leverage this powerful tool effectively. Erik's experience in sales enablement means he doesn't just understand the platform, which I'm sure he knows inside and out, but he also knows how to translate Yelp's capabilities into actionable strategies that drive real business results. So, whether you're managing campaigns for retail locations, restaurants, service providers, or any other business with a local presence, I believe today's insights will help you maximize your clients' visibility and engagement on one of the most influential review and discovery platforms on the planet. We're fortunate to have Erik share his knowledge with our chapter today, and I encourage you all to kind of actively participate in the Q&A portion of our meeting that'll happen at the end of Erik's presentation. So let's give Erik a warm welcome to the Inland Empire family. Erik, take it away.
All right. Thank you, John. I might need you to follow me around in my personal life and give that introduction before I walk into every room. That was great. So thank you for the warm
Very good.
introduction
I'm here
there.
for birthdays and bar mitzvahs.
There we go. All right. All right. So before we dive into this, I'd like to thank John, obviously, and the American Advertising Federation for having me. I'm very passionate about facilitating business growth, and not only that, but how consumers operate in especially the modern day consumerism and the market that we do have today. So hopefully by the end of this, my goal is to educate everyone on how Yelp can do both. Number one, increase business growth, and number two, show you how Yelp can provide the consumer journey to the bottom of the consumerism funnel, as I like to say. Leaving this, I'd like everybody to kind of lean into Yelp because of our consumers. I want you to all have a better understanding of how Yelp works in terms of as a business owner, agency, or a consumer as well. And to understand that Yelp's not just a review site. It is much more. I know that people think of Yelp as just reviews. And by the end of this, hopefully we can see a little bit more insight to what else Yelp has to offer. When John asked me to present on Yelp's ecosystem and leveraging Yelp for business success, I immediately started thinking about everything that I could possibly cover. However, he told me I only have about 40 to 45 minutes, so I trimmed it quite a bit, but nonetheless, it will be just as valuable. And at the end of this presentation, you will have my contact information to reach out to me if you have further questions or want to learn more about anything related to Yelp. Not only that, but I'm obviously on LinkedIn. Feel free to send me an invite if you want to connect there as well. So today, my goal is to cover the value as a consumer of Yelp and as a business owner, better understand the consumer journey and the intent of that specific consumer on Yelp, and then how to optimize Yelp products and advertising for the conversion, right? We'll dive into my favorite three buckets of advertising, and I'll explain how Yelp fits into every single one of those buckets. So today, we'll cover why Yelp, specifically on the consumer side of things. We'll talk about our products, both free and paid. Contrary to popular belief, Yelp is not a pay-to-play site, so I will be covering the free aspects as well. And then next steps, if you guys have questions and are interested in learning more about the platform. So again, as John said, my name is Erik Witzig. I am a senior sales enablement specialist here on the multi-loc side of things for Yelp. I've been at Yelp for almost 11 years now and pretty much done everything under the sun as it relates to Yelp product and Yelp sales. I started out as a local account executive who was making pretty much 80 cold calls a day, moved to a senior sales manager role on the local side of things, and I was even a director of local training for the Phoenix office pre-COVID. And now since, like I said, I've shifted to the multi-loc aspect of things. But 11 years is a long time to be at a company. A lot of my friends tease me that I am a lifer, and I actually might be a Yelp for life because of what this company, one, has taught me and what it stands for. I know the stigma. I know the misinterpretation that Yelp gets when it comes to business owners and reviews, but understanding over these past 11 years, the ins and outs of why Yelp does what it does has been extremely rewarding for me. As I said at the beginning of this, I'm very passionate about business growth, and helping businesses continue to grow never gets old. Watching their lead generation increase, watching their conversion increase, it always brings a smile to my face. Which leads me to our mission as a company. And like I said, 11 years here, our mission hasn't changed. It's one of my favorite things about this company. But our mission is to connect people with great local businesses. And it is really that simple. All we do is connect people in need to businesses in their area that can solve for that need. So why Yelp, right? We talked about it earlier. We are literally everywhere. Our platform has earned media presence across TV, movies, print, social media. Even if you think you haven't used Yelp, I bet you probably have without knowing. Our brand recognition is what keeps us top of mind when consumers are looking for a business to spend money with. And that's what really separates us from every other platform out there. And I'll dive into that in a little bit throughout this presentation. But you'll see here, we're in press, Forbes, Jimmy Fallon, whatever it may be, any show you've watched on Netflix, Peacock, Hulu, whatever it may be, I bet there has been a mention of Yelp in there. Or if you've used your mobile device at all, which, let's be real, 2025, a lot of people have, you've probably used Yelp as well. And it's really this simple. You know, I talked about our mission statement of connecting people to great local businesses, but I don't want anybody to overthink Yelp in general. It's extremely easy to go down this rabbit hole and get caught in the weeds and overthink. Personally, I did it all the time when I started out earlier in my career. When I was on the phone, I was trying to explain Yelp, trying to explain the reviews, business owner profiles, public profiles, searches for specific industries. Why should someone use Yelp over Angie's back in the day? But if we look at Yelp from a bird's eye view or a 40,000 foot view of what this company does, it really is this simple. All that happens is people visit Yelp when they need to find a business to spend money with. But realistically, I'm sure a lot of people on this call know that our platform really isn't different than a lot of other platforms out there. I'm not going to sit here and tell everybody that Yelp is the only place people should be on. Yelp is the only avenue that you should advertise on. But what separates Yelp from all of our competitors is our consumers. And that's really it, right? So people trust Yelp to buy, hire, and engage with brands, local businesses, et cetera, et cetera. We have 76 million monthly visitors, 2 million business listing updates, 7.7 million active claimed business locations, and over 308 million reviews. This is especially critical for Yelp because of, again, our audience, our consumers. They aren't just browsing, right? They use this site to actively search, making decisions, and taking actions with businesses that they find on our site. So when you do reach a Yelp consumer, if your business or one of your clients' businesses happen to land in front of that Yelp consumer, they are at the bottom of the buying funnel, which is why they come to Yelp and why Yelp separates itself from everybody in the industry. That being said, 54% of users earn $100K or more on Yelp specifically. So if we think about those 76 million monthly users that use Yelp, over 54% of those users earn $100K or more annually. Now, again, they're at the bottom of the buying funnel. I don't know about you, but that screams disposable income to me, which is why people use Yelp over and over and over again. So again, don't overthink it. People use Yelp specifically to find a business to spend money with. Not only that, but 54% of Yelp users earn 100K or more annually. So we know why people come to Yelp. We know they have money to spend, but I'd love to dive into the demographics for a second here. Yelp users range from Gen Z to baby boomers, right? 12% of users are Gen Z, 31% millennials, 28% Gen X, and 29% baby boomers, 60% of which are usually female, 40% of male, and the median age is 48. Now, there are plenty of studies out there in terms of advertising and age groups of who's doing what at a specific time in their life, right? Who's buying a home, who's looking for a landscaper, who's looking for HVAC, who's looking for a new real estate agent, it might be. You're able to run those reports side by side with who specifically is on Yelp to target your specific consumer you are looking for. People come to Yelp when they're undecided and ready to spend. And this is one of my favorite statistics that we do have on Yelp. Over 6.9 billion annual searches and page views across more than 1,500 categories on Yelp. But what does that mean? That means that 86% of those searches are unbranded. And again, this is why I continue to work for this company. Unbranded is huge, meaning they know they have a certain need. So if I'm looking for, let's say, a barber, I'm specifically searching barber in my area. I'm not typing in a specific barber's name. So 86% of those Yelp searches are up for grabs. Their loyalty is up for grabs, which is why they come to Yelp. 82% of users hire or buy from a business they found on Yelp. Again, another very, very powerful statistic there. 82% of those 76 million monthly users find a business to spend money with when they're searching on Yelp. So how do we own our Yelp presence, right? We know why people use Yelp. We know what their demographic is. We know they have money to spend, and we know that 86% of those searches are unbranded. So how do we get in front of them, right? I told you Yelp is not a pay-to-play site, so I'd love to talk to everybody on this call about the free features that we do offer. But first, I want to explain those three buckets I talked about earlier, which will come later on in the call. But in my mind, good advertising does three things, right? It does exposure to the right people, it converts that exposure, and you're able to track it. Now, through my years and experience of talking to specifically agencies, small, medium businesses on Yelp, there are two basic advertising buckets to be able to put marketing in. And in my opinion, it is inbound and outbound advertising. Now, outbound is exactly what it sounds like, at least to me, right? It's outward facing avenue to broadcast a business, service, promotion, a product to everyone at once, right? Everybody, we want everybody to see this brand, whether or not they're specifically looking for, let's take HVAC, for example. We don't know if that consumer who sees your outbound marketing needs somebody to fix their HVAC in that moment, right? So I like to compare this to fishing. It's kind of like going into a lake without doing research and just casting a rod versus inbound, which you do the research to figure out where the fish are and then go to that specific spot. So with the outbound advertising, think flyers on your car window when you get out of a movie, think newspaper ads, radio ads, TV, etc. In that form of advertising, it's great brand awareness to get out in front of a specific area. Think like a catchy radio slogan or a commercial you get that you can't get out of your head with the tune. My view of outbound is you have to have, again, that catchy theme, right? Or you have to specifically get lucky that the second a consumer hears that ad, they happen to need that service. I cracked up. I actually got married in Temecula. So my wife and I drove out there quite a bit. And on the way out there, I remember, I'm not going to name the business name, but I remember seeing this accident attorney ad that was an upside down billboard on the side of the highway. And I don't know if anybody on this call has seen that, but it's clever because obviously I remembered it. But that specific accident attorney has to hope that an accident happened to happen right underneath that billboard. And that's that outbound advertising of things. Again, so whereas inbound, right? Inbound is advertising it to people who specifically come to a spot, telling us what they want so we can promote targeted ads to that specific person. So let's think about that for a second. Let's think about this Yelp consumer journey as I talked about. Again, we know why people use Yelp. We know who's using Yelp. We know they have money to spend. They're just looking for the right business to spend money with. So in this example, right, I need to get my taxes done. I am undecided, so I go to Yelp. I currently live in Scottsdale, so I would say an unbranded search, like I brought up earlier, of I'm looking for an accountant. I'm in Scottsdale. Who do I go to? The search results pull up. I decide based on what I see where to go, and then I book through that accountant. So another example here, I moved out to Arizona in 2012 from Northern California. And I had a barber I trusted in Northern California, and now I was able to find one out here. I haven't been on Yelp in almost 12 years to search specifically for a barber in Scottsdale. I use Yelp all the time, but not to find a barber in Scottsdale. So those searches that are happening, again, their loyalty is up for grabs. But again, transactional site here. So business owners want to, or businesses in general, they want to convert leads, right? We want to establish trust, we want to build confidence, and we want to show expertise and take control of what the public or the consumer see. And again, that is where those free products come into play that Yelp has to offer for every individual Yelp listing. If there is a business on Yelp, you have availability to update it to your discretion with the following information. Business information, so about the business, right? You can talk about the history of the business, the hours, the location. You can upload as many photos as you want. As a lot of people know on this call, Yelp is a consumer-driven site, so they can upload photos as well, but so can the business owner. Messaging to individual consumers or clients, even between business owners, and then RAQ, which at Yelp stands for Request a Quote, which is industry specific. And in my head, Request a Quote is one of the top lead producers for Yelp that we have to offer. And guess what? Like I said, it is a free feature. They have paid features as well of this, but this is a free thing you can activate on your page. So let's talk about RAQ for a second. Let me give you a high-level workflow of a consumer when it comes onto Yelp, looking for a trusted source for servicing their homes, right? Their projects, and figuring out who a good contractor would be to hire. In this situation, it's for landscaping, right? So let's take John, for example. John searches for a landscaper on Yelp and then is able to request information from them. There are a number of different methods here on which you can request a quote that would be great to distribute to all these landscapers. From here, the user fills out a form that has a number of predefined questions or prompts for this consumer to fill out to narrow the lead down to a specific landscaper. Again, that lead is then distributed to the business so they can see if they want to take the job that John needs done or maybe refer him to somebody else. So again, I don't know about anybody, but I barely pick up the phone to call somebody. I'm always using Request a Quote because I want to get as much information as I possibly can. My wife and I just bought a house in a different area of Scottsdale, and I needed to clean the pool. So I requested a quote from a lot of different pool vendors, and it was the people who were most engaging in answering the questions that I went with versus saying, just give me a call. So a little trick of the trade there if you do activate Request a Quote. So again, consumers can request a quote from many different places all over Yelp, right? The search page ad, which we'll get into here in a second, sponsored ad, the search page, business profiles in general, or you can offer competing quotes to anybody in the area with a project that you need done. Again, so as a business owner, this is somebody raising their hand saying, I'm in your area, I'm looking for your service. What are your prices? And again, think about that bottom of the consumer funnel. So we talked about the free features. Let's dive into the paid features a little bit here. But before I do, again, I am not here to sell you specifically on Yelp. I believe in advertising in a lot of different avenues. This is just to educate you on the possibilities of what can happen when you do advertise on Yelp. Businesses get 4x more leads with Yelp ads. So think about those 76 million monthly users. Think about those 82% who are making a purchase decision within a week on Yelp. 4x more leads come from Yelp ads. So we talked about exposure, we talked about conversion, we talked about tracking in terms of the 3 buckets that make a good advertising program. Again, no matter where it is, Yelp or not, I strongly believe business owners should always have those three things top of mind. Just a reminder, are we getting exposure to the right people? Is that exposure converting? And are we able to track the ROI of that conversion? So let's dive into exposure on Yelp. How can business owners get more people finding them, right? Pretty straightforward. Yelp ads. Ads are placed across the Yelp site and mobile app to increase business exposure, effective advertising with pay-per-click, compete in the market with custom geo-targets, and accelerate conversions with call to action. So a lot of stuff happens here, right? You're able to promote yourself as a sponsored result above the #1 search result on competitors' pages all throughout Yelp. Essentially, anytime Yelp believes that you have a chance to land that consumer who is doing that search for a barber, who is looking to sell their home and searching for a real estate agent. Again, We promote the ad directly to a targeted consumer who is searching for what you offer in your area. Now you can customize your ad goals and campaign as well. Customizing your campaign allows you to target specific locations of your ads, keywords, photos, ad text, ad preview, budget, and more. The more descriptive you are in this ad, more likely than not, you're going to land that click from the consumer who is specifically looking for what you have to offer. So the exposure, right? We know when somebody comes to Yelp, we know where they are, we know what they're looking for because they literally tell us, and we're able to promote you if it's in that industry to that specific consumer. Now, how do we convert them once they do find you? How can business convert views into leads? And that's where the enhanced profile comes into play. You do not need to do both together, but I strongly recommend anytime you do sign up for Yelp ads to always bundle it with the enhanced profile. The analogy I like to use here is, think about if you're having a party and you send out all these invitations, everybody shows up to your party, but you don't have anything to keep them there. You don't have refreshments, you don't have music, you don't have games. That's where this comes into play. The upgrade profile is what keeps people on your page when they are searching for a local business to spend money with. So enhanced profile features include photo slideshow, the business logo, business highlights, updated business page content, verified license, call to action button, portfolio, and competitor ad removal as well, which in my opinion is a big one because no other business will be advertising on your Yelp listing when you do the upgrade profile. When shown two businesses side by side in search, right, 94% of Yelp users said they choose the business with upgrade features over the one without. 94%, which is a crazy statistic of people finding your Yelp page versus a competitor, will choose your Yelp page based on the upgrade profile for the conversion tools because of how specific you are able to get. Get noticed with portfolios. What are portfolios? Portfolios are a collection of images that allows businesses to promote the best of what they offer through words, photos, showcasing services, and why is it valuable. You're able to promote before and after projects, maybe homes you just sold. Obviously, it depends on the industry when you do sign up on Yelp. But again, portfolios allow you to tell your story and build trust with the consumer by showcasing products, services, cost, timeline, and more, making it easier for the consumer to make that buying decision when they're on Yelp. Each portfolio can include up to 50 photos and before labels for the photos as well, and after custom descriptions that highlight your work, timeline, and pricing. And again, that call to action button to be at the bottom of the consumer funnel, like we talked about. This one is big in my mind as well. The business highlights, this is industry specific, but it allows you to showcase that you are possibly locally owned. You're a certified professional. You're a woman-owned business, right? Or you're a veteran-owned business, which again, people want to spend money with businesses they trust. And that's where this comes into play. So I'll say this again. I know I started this segment with this stat, but businesses get 4x more leads with Yelp ads. So the conversion and the ROI is there. It's just about finding that sweet spot and working with your Yelp representative to make sure that we set your ad up to your liking. But again, I talked about exposure, talked about conversion. Now, how do we track this? BOA dashboard, which stands for Business Owners Account Dashboard, which help keep business owners organized and provides transparency on everything that happens with your Yelp page. I like to have a little fun here. Essentially, if somebody sneezes on your Yelp page, you are going to know about it, right? You'll see ad clicks, you'll see map directions, you'll see how many people have clicked on your call to action or gone over to your website. And there's a lot more tracking that comes into play as you continue to grow with Yelp when you do advertise. So key takeaways here. I know I breezed through that, but Yelp's high intent audience provides a platform where someone is searching and in need of a business right now. Ads allow business owners to be discovered by potential customers, clients, patients, whatever they're looking for, a specific product or service. Think about that exposure, conversion, and tracking that we covered. And then again, businesses get 4x more leads with Yelp ads. As I talked about, if you do have questions or are interested in learning a bit more about Yelp ads specifically, or our consumer journey or consumer stats on Yelp, do not hesitate to reach out to me. It is just my last name, Witzig, W-I-T-Z-I-G, @yelp.com. And as I said as well, do not hesitate to reach out to me on LinkedIn. But if you take anything away from that deck that I just went through. Have it be the consumer journey and the consumer stats that happen on Yelp. But other than that, that is all I got for the deck. I wanted to save time for some Q&A that John has teed up. So thank you guys.
Well, thank you very much, Eric. And thank you everyone here for attending. And also thank you very much for your flexibility and last minute change on the URL. So I do have some questions that people had submitted before the presentation. You had an option here of submitting a question or two. So I do have a few, but I also encourage everyone that's on the call today to go ahead and maybe post those questions specifically in the chat, and they can kind of share those. And we can kind of go from there. That way, you don't have to necessarily reveal yourself on video or specifically in other ways. But I do have a couple of questions, Eric, for you that were submitted here beforehand.
Yeah.
One of those is the following. I just kind of copied and pasted this here. It says, what are the essential first steps a local business should take when claiming and optimizing their Yelp profile? And so a double part question here. What are the most common mistakes you see when businesses make in their initial setup? So I guess they're talking purely about the marketing side and not even the advertising side.
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, like I said, there's multiple avenues to Yelp, the free and the paid aspect. So it sounds like they're talking about maybe creating a listing on Yelp and what are the best avenues to make sure that page gets found. I talked about the free features. One, be as descriptive as possible. I think a lot of mistakes happen when business owners create the Yelp page or they claim a Yelp page because a customer shared a 5-star review about their business. And then they treat it like a crock pot, right? They set it and forget it. I think the more active you are on Yelp, the more times you're updating your information, the hours, responding to reviews, the more active you are, the better results and the better traction your page can possibly get. So I think the biggest downfall is that idea of, let me just type this out because I have to, let me set it and forget it. Let me log in every 6 months. The benefit of it, again, in my recommendation, is to be as descriptive as possible and go through every single prompt when setting up your Yelp page. Great question.
So you have two parts of your business. You've got the marketing side, which is free for businesses. And then you also have the advertising side of things.
Correct.
One question that was just posted here, which is, and I know this person works for a nonprofit, does Yelp have any specific services geared specifically for nonprofits, or do you provide any discounts relative to advertising services?
We don't, it's hard to offer discounts in a performance-based program, right? So we don't really offer discounts. We have a lot of promos, both on the partner side and on the local side of things, to always look out for, whether you're logging into your business owner's account or you see it in your email. Specifically for nonprofits, it's a little tricky, but again, the more descriptive you are on the page to attract potential, people who are donating or people who want to volunteer their time, the more descriptive you are on your page with photos and what the nonprofit stands for, the more likely a Yelp consumer is going to interact with that page.
Gotcha.
Good question.
So there was another question here. I do know that there's at least one or two agency folks on this call here today. It said, for marketing agencies managing multiple local clients, what's the most effective way to structure and manage Yelp advertising campaigns across different business categories and budget levels?
The most effective thing you can do is reach out to witzig@yelp.com for more information on that. But it's specifically why this is a great question. I love this question. It's specifically why we created what we call the partner program, which is actually what I work in and I'm very close with on the partner side of things. So we would create what we have, what we call a partner hub, where you're able to track literally every single one of your clients, specifically on Yelp. I know that one business is not the same as the other. So if one location wants to spend X amount, the other location wants to spend D amount, right? You're able to see everything and control that. Not only that, but we offer a bit more layering with the tracking in the BOA. What we have custom reports where you'll be able to see literally everything about each location that you have as an agency. And I won't sell you on the agency. I want whoever asked that question to reach out because there's a lot more information, but we make it very simple for all marketing agencies who have a big book of business. Great question.
There's two questions here around reviews. I'll see if I can get the second one first because it may
Okay.
answer the first question here. And there's a question about managing reviews. You had mentioned this specifically about reviews. Is there, I guess one question I have here before we get into this other one is there an average review star rating across everything? Because sometimes it's harder to be able to say, oh, am I going to get to a 4 or am I going to get to a 5, right? And that seems to be a better, I guess I'm trying to figure out here is relative to their question is, does the does the star rating itself, encourage or inhibit based on a certain star rating?
Yeah, so the rating on the Yelp page is the average of the business ratings or the business reviews that you have gotten on that page. If we look at Yelp as a whole, I believe the average rating is about 4 stars, and I believe 54%. I could be wrong there. You might have to check Yelp Fast Facts for everybody on this call who want to dive more into Yelp reviews. That's just Yelp Fast Facts. But I believe 54% of businesses on Yelp are higher than a 4-star rating, but I could be off there. But the reviews at the top of the page are completely the average of the total reviews you have on the page.
Gotcha. And then I guess related to that question is this was a question: when businesses face review bombing or fake negative reviews, what recourse do they have through Yelp system?
Yeah, so that's a tricky one. Reviews is always the hot topic of Yelp. My
Yep.
recommendation is flag the review, right? You'll get a prompt where you flag the review about why you're flagging the review, and then Yelp's turnaround time, depending on how busy we are, is about 2 days to a week on getting back to you about the review. Realistically, it's a tricky topic because we have no control over reviews. It's what separates Yelp from everybody else is our review algorithm. But again, if you want to learn more about that, Yelp Fast Facts for sure can answer that question as well.
Excellent. I do know we have somebody that here works with restaurants, and their question was for restaurants versus service based businesses versus retail, how should a Yelp strategy differ and what unique features work best for that type of vertical?
Yeah, this is a good question because it's such a saturated market. I think call to action for sure, Yelp ads for sure, get in front of people, and then again, being as active as you possibly can be on the Yelp page. There's a lot of paid products that can separate you from every other restaurant in the industry. But I think the more active, especially in the RFN, which stands for restaurant, food, nightlife industry, it's extremely important to engage with your consumers, engage with the reviews that you're getting, and keep your profile up to date.
I guess the same person here is asking is for the restaurant reservation button, can you link to Resi directly or do you have to use what Yelp offers?
That is a great question for our reservation team. So whoever asked that, feel free to send me an email and I'll get you to the right people.
Excellent. There was a question here, but I don't see the person. Um, uh, so it says, given the Inland Empire's growing real estate market, how can property managers and real estate professionals effectively use Yelp?
Great question. My immediate response is to advertise, right? Whether you're showing ads or not, I think the upgrade profile features we offer are super important for not only property management companies, but for real estate agents as well. I just had to hire a real estate agent, and the one that stuck out to me had the upgrade profile features. And like I said, 94% of consumers on Yelp will choose that profile over one that doesn't. What made me do it was the business highlights, right? Family owned, how long they've been in business, and then also contacting them for information over text and over that. It's not necessarily request a quote for real estate agents, but messaging them through Yelp to make sure that this is the right person I want to deal with before I hop on the phone and get sold by this agent of why I should hire them. So that's a great question. Again, page upgrades would be my recommendation there.
So I think for the agencies, I work for an agency, but I also know there's a couple agencies on this call. we've been noticing a decline in traffic from organic search, right? And we do know that Yelp was also getting organic search to a certain extent through its platform, but most of the traffic uh, passes through directly through the app itself, right? Can you talk a little bit about the difference between like organic traffic versus the app traffic?
Yeah, so organic traffic meaning like desktop.
Yes, maybe desktop coming, somebody does a search, let's say on Google, and
Okay.
they come into a Yelp website, right, or the
Yep.
Yelp platform itself, versus I'm using the app itself and I'm bypassing Google or Bing or whatever the platform is alternatively.
Got it. So that's a tricky question, right? And a great question for our engineers. But for me, the short answer is I think if people start their search on Google, right, and they're able to find a Yelp listing on there, because Yelp's SEO is always extremely high. It ranks extremely high on Google as well. And finding that Yelp page directly and landing on Yelp, that's kind of the separation between opening the Yelp app. But in terms of desktop, it's clear why people use the mobile app way more, and that's because their phone's always in their hand. Our smartphones do pretty much everything that a computer does, if not more. And then people are always on the go, which is why we're one of the top travel sites as well. So that's why a lot of the traffic comes from the mobile side of things, because they're just in the area, they're looking for somewhere to go, and they do that search for high intent.
Okay, I have a follow-up question on that. It's related to this. It said, can you walk us through how the consumer journey on Yelp differs from other platforms like Google My Business or Google Business Profile or Facebook, and where businesses should focus their efforts for maximum impact? Because you've got completely different user intents.
Yeah, completely different user intents. I think, for the industry, the hardest part of our job, especially as business owner or agency owners, is putting our mind or our headspace in that of a consumer, and not thinking like a business owner of, this is great, I'm going to target everybody on Facebook who is in this demographic. Personally, for me, I rarely use Facebook anymore. I'm not, no, by no means am I bashing Meta, but I use it to connect with friends or see what my aunt's up to, my uncle's up to, stuff like that, right? Google is great. Obviously, I use Google all the time as well, probably just as much as I use Yelp, but Google is a search engine, whereas Yelp is specifically a business directory. So if I go to Google and I type in pancakes, right, I might get recipes on how to make pancakes. I might get pancake brands. I might get a YouTube video of some influencer who's making these pancakes with their child, which is great, right? I love that. But if you type in pancakes specifically on Yelp, you're only going to get businesses in the area that serve pancakes. So the main difference is I treat Yelp as a business directory versus those other sites like Meta, social media site, Google search engine. Great question.
I have a few other questions, but I want to go out to the crowd here and just say, or if anybody else wants to post some questions, please post them to the chat so we can go ahead and make sure we get your questions answered. There was a question earlier, or not really a question, but you brought up during your presentation, Eric,
Yeah.
about tracking. And this was a question that was related to that. It really, it's kind of detailed, but I'm not going to go to that level of detail. It talked about attribution models, but I guess the question is, what's the best tracking method for measuring how Yelp contributes to the overall business growth? Like the person wrote, should we just use UTM codes?
Good question. I'm assuming this is coming from a marketing agency, but I could be wrong.
I don't know who submitted that
Okay.
question.
So a couple things. One, we actually have API, right? We have leads API, we have ads API for you to be able to track it and organize it in your CRM to see where these leads are specifically coming from. We just partnered with an API company, which you can do a little bit more research about, or reach out to me as well. But if you're doing it old school, right, it's just running the numbers in the BOA versus every other tracking opportunity you have. I know Google has analytics. I know Meta does as well. So that would just be the long way to sit down with your books, look at the revenue, look at the ROI, and cross-examine where it's coming from. But if you are on the agency side of things or want to learn more about the API that we do offer to businesses on Yelp, feel free to reach out to me as well, because that is a very long-winded answer that I can answer one-on-one? Good question. I like it.
Okay. And these two other questions were quite interesting here. How can businesses use Yelp to conduct competitive research and identify market gaps or opportunities in their local area?
Yeah, that is a great question. We send out newsletters almost every single month on trends that are happening and where the gaps are. So I would just say subscribe to the newsletter because we run those reports all the time to make sure we're providing the best service we possibly can for not only consumers, but for business owners as well.
Yeah, that might be something that this person's already using. It says, what insights can businesses glean from Yelp's consumer trend data to inform their broader business strategy? So,
Again, it depends on if it's coming from an agency or a specific industry, right? We talk about seasonality quite a bit, which everybody on this call probably knows about. But again, diving deeper and really connecting with your Yelp rep, if you do have one, to learn as much as you possibly can about the competitive landscape on Yelp.
what I shared with you were the questions that folks had submitted here throughout our day. Do we have any other questions kind of coming from the folks that joined? I don't see anything just yet. I want to remind everybody we're recording this session today, so we'll go ahead and forward that out to those that were able to attend, and then also for those that registered but were unable to attend. Anything else, Eric, that you have on top of mind or questions that maybe we haven't asked so far that you do get asked?
No, I mean, I just think again at the beginning of this presentation, I talked about the stigma or the misunderstanding of Yelp just being a review site. Just I wanted to just reinforce what separates us from every other platform that you can spend money on is our consumer intent, right? I don't know about anybody on this call, but on a Friday, I don't take my shoes off, kick my feet up, pour myself a glass of whatever I'm drinking that night, and search for a contractor for fun on Yelp, right? I'm only on Yelp specifically to find a business to spend money with. And that's what I hope everybody leaves this call with.
Oh, there are two other questions. Somebody was not able to attend here. As you were mentioning, that was um, obviously with Yelp, you're focusing mostly on uh, businesses with physical locations. But there are a bunch of businesses where people may work out of their home, and those are really referred to as service area businesses, and that's very common in the franchise world. Are there particular suggestions or advice that you would have for those that don't have a physical location relative to a Yelp profile?
So that's tricky, right? Because again, our goal is to connect people to local businesses. So when people have like an e-commerce or anything like that, it's hard to get them on Yelp because again, we want to focus on businesses in the area specifically. But to your point, John, you brought up the service area, right? The service area or the ad radius that you can promote yourself in, that would be my recommendation.
Gotcha. Okay. And Eric, I know that you're going to, there were a couple people here that already asked for your email, but I know what we're going to
Yeah.
do is we're recording this presentation and you're going to share your contact information at the very end. And then what we'll do, team here, for folks that were able to attend, we'll create a blog post about this particular event, and we'll include Eric's contact information going forward. Do we have any other questions here from the peanut gallery out in the interwebs? Any other questions here? Well, I think Eric, you did a fantastic job. Thank you very much for your time and putting together this presentation. So without further ado, if we don't have any further questions, I'm going to let everyone go and get back to their lunch. And everyone have a fantastic day.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Have a great one. Bye-bye.